Good morning. Okay, are we working now? Very good. Well, good morning and welcome to the debut of the 2016 Current Market Outlook. The Current Market Outlook is our 20-year forecast for both traffic growth as well as airplane demand. In my presentation today, I wanted to do two things. First, I want to talk about how the market has been performing over the last few years and some of the critical trends we see today that will continue out into the next 20 years. Then I want to share with you the details of the current market outlook. After I'm done, I'll invite John to the stage to talk about our products and a little bit about customers. So as we look at the performance of the market between 2010 and 2015, after a very challenging downturn in the market in 2008 and 2009, frankly, we've seen a very strong, resilient marketplace. Over that 6-year period, we have seen passenger traffic grow in excess of 6% per year. And what's interesting, not only has traffic grown in excess of 6% per year, but over that 6-year period, traffic has grown faster than capacity. So load factors have continued to rise. Now, the cargo market's been more of a challenge. The cargo market has been challenged by a slow-growing economy, and frankly, it's impacted by slow-growing trade. Over the last 6 years, we've seen times of growth, we've seen times of retraction in that market, but it has found a way to grow at a little bit more than 1.5% per year. And finally, and most importantly, as we look at profitability of our customers, over this 6-year time, we have seen our customers accumulate close to $100 billion in profit. And as we've seen lower fuel price over the last couple of years, we've seen the profitability of our customers accelerate. Now, as a result of a strong growing market over this 6-year period, we've seen our market grow. In fact, we've seen our backlog grow about 68%, from about 3,400 units in 2010 to almost 5,800 units as we entered this year. We've also seen our deliveries increase by 65%. In 2010, we delivered 462 airplanes. Last year, we were up to 762 aircraft in terms of deliveries. So a strong market for our customers, a market where they've been profitable, and that's meant good news for us, the OEMs. Now, as we look at this year, 2016, we expect another year of 6% growth in terms of traffic. That growth will be pretty much in line with what we see in terms of capacity growth. We have seen an improvement in trade. As a result of that improvement in trade, we expect to see cargo traffic grow somewhere between 2 and 3%. And then finally, as you can see, IATA is now forecasting at close to $40 billion in profit this year. Clearly, the tailwind from lower fuel prices now being seen at the bottom line of our customers in every part of the world. I'll mention, though, that more than half of that profit will be generated from the airlines in the United States. So now let's turn our attention to the trends we see today and how they'll influence the market going forward. Well, as we look at growth in the market, we see that growth being generated by the airlines in the emerging and developing economies, as well as the low-cost carriers as they grow and accelerate their growth, I should say, moving into the future. We also expect to see a strong and resilient demand to replace older aircraft with new airplanes. And then finally, we expect the market to continue to change and evolve as new airplanes with new capabilities enter the marketplace and truly change the landscape of this industry moving forward. Let me share just a few proof points on each of those issues. First, in terms of economic growth and traffic growth by these emerging and developing economies. If you think about it, the world economy today is about an $85 trillion market. The developed economies contribute about 60% of that activity, and the developing economies about 40%. But as you can see, those emerging and developing economies, including China, will grow at almost twice the rate. As a result, they will increase their economic activities 75% higher than those developed economies. Those emerging and developing economies, as they see growth in the market, they'll see growth in the middle class, they'll see more people flying, so their growth in terms of traffic will accelerate. In terms of low-cost carriers, as we look at the single-aisle market over the next 20 years, about 35% of all single-aisle airplanes will deliver into low-cost carriers. As a result of this, we'll see their market share in terms of the installed base grow from about 27% to 33% 20 years from now. Taking a look at retirements going forward, if you think about it today, there's about 1,000 airplanes flying that are 25 years or older. 700 of those airplanes are single aisles, about 300 are wide bodies. So those aircraft are clearly candidates for replacement today. But in addition to that, as you take a look at aircraft that will reach that 25-year threshold in the coming years, you'll see that we'll see an acceleration in potential retirements for both single aisles, going from about 300 to 400 airplanes today to twice that in the next decade. And you'll see a 50% increase in the airplanes that will be eligible for retirement in the wide-body aircraft. So replacement demand will be an important driver of demand moving forward. And then finally, new airplanes with new capabilities will continue to change this landscape, whether it be single-aisle airplanes like the 737 MAX or the 787. Those airplanes bring a unique combination of features, size, economics, fuel efficiency, as well as range that allow our customers to open up new markets. Just think about it, since the first 787 was delivered in 2011, that airplane has opened up more than 100 new markets. If you looked at this chart just last year, it would have shown about 50 markets open. So this airplane is truly accelerating change in the marketplace. So with those trends as a background, now let's talk a little bit about the current market outlook. As I mentioned, the current market outlook is our 20-year forecast for traffic growth as well as airplane demand. And it's a very inclusive study. As you take a look at it, this is our 20-year forecast. It absolutely includes all of the globe. So we do include areas such as Cuba that have just re-entered, I should say, the global aviation market in Iran. We take a look at 63 major traffic flows around the world. In terms of the airplanes that are included in the forecast, this is about jet aircraft that are serving 30 seats or greater in capacity. Do not include turboprops, do not include business jets, we don't include any types of military aircraft. It includes freighters, and finally, we try to encompass all flights, whether they be scheduled or unscheduled. Now the question may come up, why do we do this forecast? And it's interesting, we've been doing this forecast now since the 1950s. And the reason we do the forecast today is the same reasons we did it back in the 1950s. We use the forecast to help shape our product strategy. We use the forecast in developing our long-range business plan. And then finally, we use the forecast, or I should say, we share the forecast with our suppliers and customers to help in their planning process. In fact, the very first forecast that we shared publicly was 1961, and it was delivered at a supplier conference. So each year as we take a look at the market, we try to take a look at all of the factors that may influence the market, not just today and in the future. For example, we look at the price of fuel, because we recognize the price of fuel can influence economic growth. Price of fuel can influence the retirement decisions that our customers make. We also saw over the last decade, as fuel prices rose, some types of airplanes like small regional jets got pushed out of the market. We look at the competitive landscape, not only the landscape of competition within our industry, but also what may be happening outside of our industry to change the marketplace. For example, we take a deep dive look at high-speed rail in China. And then finally, we look at what types of capabilities will be added to airplanes in the future. You know, what's interesting, we expect airplanes that deliver 20 years from now will be more capable. They will carry more passengers, they'll generate more flights per day, and in fact, their total utilization in terms of the generation of RPKs, or revenue passenger kilometers, will be up about 20% from today. Without this improvement in capabilities over time, clearly our forecast would be much higher. In terms of growth, you know, this is a growing marketplace. It's proven to be very resilient. Over the last 35 years, Since actually the beginning of deregulation in the U.S. market, we have seen the market grow year over year, and it's grown close to that 5% trend. The market has found ways to grow despite a number of economic cycles. It's also grown despite a number of challenges we had, from 9/11 to SARS to the Asian financial crisis. As we look to the future, we expect the economy and this industry to continue to grow. So over the next 20 years, we expect the world economy to grow at 2.9% per year. That the number of passengers traveling will grow at 4% annually. That traffic, which is the number of people traveling multiplied by the distance they travel, will grow at 4.8%. And then finally, cargo will grow at a rate of about 4.2% per year. You know, put these numbers in perspective. Last year, 3.7 billion people traveled by air. In the year 2035, at the end of the forecast period, that number will be greater than 7.5 billion travelers. So as a result of this growth then, we forecast a total demand for 39,620 aircraft valued at $5.9 trillion US dollars. Now the biggest market will be for single aisles, both in terms of units as well as terms of investment. And we define the single aisle airplanes as all single aisle aircraft that seat 90 or more passengers. The second largest market will be the market for wide bodies, and we divided that into three sections. Small wide bodies are aircraft that seat between 200 and 300 passengers. Think of the 787-8 and 787-9. The medium wide body market is for aircraft that carry between 300 and 400 passengers. Think in terms of the 787-10, and 777 and 777X. And the large wide body market is for all airplanes greater than 400 seats. Think about the 747-8. You'll also notice that we track demand for regional jets. Those regional jet aircraft between 30 and 90 seats. It's a relatively small market in terms of both units and investment, but we watch this market closely because that's clearly where our next competition has and will come from. Now, as a result of this forecast, then, we see the world fleet doubling over the next 20 years. About 57% of the demand will be needed for growth in the market, 43% for replacement. Think of the biggest growth markets as being the Asia-Pacific market, especially China. Think of Latin America, think of Africa, and think of the Middle East. The biggest replacement markets are places like here, the UK and Europe. Think of the United States, and then think of markets such as Japan, Korea, and Australasia. I should also add that included in that forecast is demand for 930 freighter aircraft, and we will be sharing a little bit more on that freight forecast tomorrow. Now, taking a look at where that demand is coming from on a regional basis, you can see over the next 20 years, the world economy will grow at 2.9% per year. The developing and emerging economies essentially will grow faster than that rate, and the advanced economies will grow at slower rates. So it should be no surprise that these markets are where we'll see the greatest growth moving forward. This is a look at some of the largest travel markets in the world. At the end of the dark blue line or the purple bar, you see where traffic levels were in each of these markets at the beginning of this year. And at the end of the bar, you'll see where we project traffic levels to be at the end of the forecast period. So some things I want you to consider as you take a look at this. First and foremost, the North American market, the European markets are big markets today. They'll grow at moderate rates, but they'll continue to be big markets in the future. The other thing I want you to note is that those markets that touch an emerging or developing economy will grow faster than the rest of the markets. And then finally, I want you to take a look at growth within China. China today is one of the biggest markets in the world, but by the end of the forecast period, the domestic China market will be the largest domestic market moving forward. So this gives you an idea then where that demand will be by region of the world. Think of it, about 40% of the demand will be in the Asia Pacific market, 20% in North America, 20% in Europe, and the remaining 20% spread around the other regions. Now, it's a little bit interesting. If you take a look at value, you'll see that the Middle Eastern market has a little bit larger market share. You'll understand that when we take a deep dive into the wide-body marketplace. So let's talk a little bit about single-aisle airplanes in our forecast for 28,000 single-aisle airplanes valued at $3 trillion. So think of this, the single-aisle market is about 70% of the unit deliveries over the next 20 years and more than half of the value of the market. This market segment will grow about 4% per year, making it the fastest growing segment in our forecast. Today, there are 400 operators of single-aisle airplanes. They operate those 15,000 aircraft. So there's no question that the single-aisle market today and in the future will continue to be the backbone of this industry. Just a couple of thoughts on trends unique to the single-aisle market. As you can see from this chart, over the last several years, we've seen a slow but consistent increase in seats being delivered or operated in this market. So the average capacity of a single-aisle airplane today is about 160 seats. It will grow about 1% per year over the next 20 years. So at the end of the forecast period, the average single-size airplane in operation will be about 175 seats. So I want you to think of it this way. Today, the average airplane in operation is a little bit smaller than a 737-800, and at the end of the forecast period, it will be a little bit larger than a 737 MAX 8. Why are we seeing this trend in seating capacity? Well, it's a number of factors. First and foremost, is large, growing, low-cost carrier base tend to have deliveries of single-aisle airplanes in single-class, high-density configurations. So that's moving the average seats per departure going up. The other thing that we see are what I would call improvements in the efficiency of cabins, aka slimline seats. So what airlines are able to do is better use the capacity or the volume or the area they have in their airplane with these new seating options. It allows our customers to either add more seats to the airplane or reconfigure those airplanes to provide a premium economy type section. And then finally, we do see modest upgauging in the market, but most of that upgauging will be from the small single-aisle side into the medium single-aisle side of the market. And I think that you really get an idea of what's happening in terms of demand in this segment just by looking at the backlog. As we look at those 28,000 airplanes over the next 20 years, we think somewhere between 5 and 10% of those airplanes will deliver into the category that I would say similar in size to today's 737-700. About 20 to 25% of those airplanes will be delivered into the large segment of that marketplace. And then finally, somewhere between 70 and 75% of the airplanes will deliver into the medium segment of the market. Now, we like to call that medium segment of the market the heart of the market. That's where our 737-800 today and the MAX 8 reside, and frankly, that's an airplane that has significant competitive advantage over our competition. Now let's move to the wide-body market. And as you can see, over the next 20 years, we see a demand for 9,100 wide-body aircraft valued at $2.8 trillion. So I want you to think of this wide-body market of about 5,000 airplanes today, and it has about half the number of operators as the single-aisle market. So this is a much more concentrated marketplace. This market, over the next 20 years, will grow about 3.7% per year. So this market will just about double over the next 20 years. And I'll have to tell you, this marketplace has seen the biggest change over my career compared to any other marketplace. And I just wanted to start by telling you a little bit of story. You know, I made my first long-range international trip for Boeing in 1990. And I don't know if I flew exactly on this airplane, but I flew from Seattle to Tokyo on an airplane that looked a lot like this Northwest 747-200. And what was interesting, when I made that first flight, I remember getting on that 747 and I landed at Narita, and I looked out the window and all I could see was what? More 747s. In fact, if you go back to 1990 and you look at Narita, at that time, there were more than 30 long-range 747 routes coming in and out of that market. Well, I tell you, This year, I've had the opportunity to fly into Narita 3 times. Each time I landed in Narita, I was on a 787, and when I looked out the window, what did I see? I saw more 787s and 777s. And I think it's really emblematic of the changes we've seen in the marketplace. Think about 1990 and these more than 30 routes of big airplanes in and out of Narita. Today, that's been whittled back to just 8 routes. Think of what has happened in terms of that landscape. In 1990, our customers had essentially 2 choices. They had a big airplane called the 747, and then they had small wide-body aircraft. They had a choice between a DC-10, a 767, an A300, and an A310. So no surprise that that was, at that time, the peak of the large airplane market. At that time, large airplanes accounted for about 30% of the market. They were operated by 60 airlines, and they flew into 400 different markets. As a result of the change in the landscape of in that industry, today they account for only about 10 or 11% of the fleet. They operate in and out of 200 markets, and they're operated only by about 30 airlines. What has changed in that last 25 years has really been the emergence of this medium wide-body aircraft. It started with the MD-11 and the A340, and then it really took off when the 777 entered the marketplace. In fact, what's really interesting, those medium wide-body aircraft now account for about 35% of the fleet. And in terms of deliveries, the MD-11 has gone away, the A340 has gone away, and the 777-300ER stands alone in that marketplace today with 100% delivery share and frankly close to 100% market share in terms of orders. So, a market that is changing and has changed, and we expect this trend you see here to continue into the future. So with that, before I invite John to the stage, I just wanted to emphasize the market remains resilient. We expect the market to continue to grow over the long term. Single aisle market, the fastest growing market segment in our forecast, growing at about 4% per year, so it will double over the next 20 years. It'll account for more than 70% of the deliveries and more than 50% of the value in the marketplace moving forward. Single aisle markets are and will continue to be the backbone of this industry. And finally, the wide body fleet over the next 20 years will double. We'll continue to see the landscape of that market change as airplanes like the 787 continue to grow share and the 777X enters the market in the next decade. And with that, I'd like to turn the podium over to John to speak about our products and to talk a little bit about customers. John.
All right. Am I on now, or you guys hear me? Great. Thank you. Good morning. I wanted to talk a little bit about our products. And I wanted to talk about 2 distinct segments of our products, our current product family and our future product family. In our current product family goes from about 126 seats with the 737-700NG all the way to 460 seats with the 747-8i. And you can see we have distinct product families in each one of those categories. What's unique about our products in each one of those categories is that our airplanes fly higher, faster, farther, more economically, more efficiently than the competition. And people say to me, well, John, all the competitors say their airplanes do the same thing, right? Well, look at how customers use our products today. Let's take the 737 family, the NG family, current family of airplanes. The routes that Copa Airlines is operating today, routes like Panama City to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Santiago, Chile, are the longest range narrow-body markets in the world. Nobody operates an airplane on those kind of routes and those kind of distance except if they're flying a 737NG airplane. People talk about the A321 and oh, it's such a great airplane. Really? Well, the 737-900ER, the NG family today, Alaska Airlines is operating from Seattle to Hawaii, Seattle to Miami, nonstop with an NG. The A321 can't come close to touching that kind of capability, and we're doing that today. Same thing's true with the 787 family of airplanes. United Airlines just opened up San Francisco to Singapore, nonstop. Nonstop. We do that today. Airbus is still trying to figure out how to build something that can compete with what our customers are doing today with the 787. The 787 has opened up 100 new nonstop markets since its introduction 4 years ago. It continues to change the way people fly around the world. And lastly, the 777. 777, as Randy pointed out, since the launch of the A350 in 2007, the 777-300ER has sold over 530 airplanes. The A350-1000 is still at 181. And if you add the 777X, the 9 and the 8 on top of that, that number grows to 850 airplanes that we've sold in that size category since 2007. 850. That's more than all the A350s they've sold, which competes not just against the 777, but also against the 87. Dramatic domination in that market segment, and we're going to continue that with our future family. So let's talk a little bit about the future family. Future family is going to go from the 737 MAX 7 again to the 747-8i. And you can see there's more airplanes on this right-hand side of the chart than the left-hand side of the chart. Why do we have more airplanes in the future than in the past? Because that's what our customers are looking for. Our customers want to fit the right-sized airplanes with the right capabilities to the markets that they need in the future. More choice is what our customers want. More choice is what our traveling public wants. They want the ability to get from where they are today to where they want to go the most efficiently and effective way possible. And that's what our new product family is going to offer. And we're going to do it with 3 distinct families of airplanes. The 3 distinct families are, let me start at the top. I guess actually we can, 3.5, let's say. The 747-8i, no change from the current family. But in terms of the 777-9 and the 777-8, we talk about airplanes larger than 330 seats, 350 seats. We have 2 products, 3 airplane types in the 350 and larger seat size category. Again, why? More choice for our customers to fit the right sized airplane to the markets that they want to serve. Again, these airplanes will have range capability not matched by any competitive airplane in the marketplace, and they'll do it more efficiently than even we do it today with the 300ER. 787 family of airplanes. We know about the 787-8 and the 787-9. We're going to add a 787-10, slightly smaller than the 777 family, which again offers our customers a 3rd choice in that family size category between 200 seats and 330 seats. So they have 3 choices, the right sized airplane for the right market in their opportunities. And then lastly, the MAX family of airplanes. Again, we're improving on our already very capable NG family by offering more range and more efficiency than the current family. We are making one additional change to the sizes of those airplanes. And today I can announce that we're actually finalizing the size of the 737 MAX 7. The size of that airplane will actually be 2 seat rows, about 12 seats bigger than the 737-700NG. People ask why. The why is because our large customers for the 737 family of airplanes have all voted, including Southwest and WestJet, our 2 largest customers, and they wanted an airplane that provided more capability, more range, and more seat count than the airplane that they both operate today in the 737 MAX, or the 737-700NG. And so we are officially increasing the size of that airplane to by 2 seat rows, by about 12 seats. The 737 MAX 9. Again, we talked about how the 900ER today can fly farther than any other airplane in that size category. Well, the MAX 9 can also do the same. With the weight capability we have in the airplane today, and with a little additional fuel capacity installed in the airplane, the MAX 9 will have longer range capability than the A321LR. Tomorrow, Mike Delaney will be doing a presentation. If you have a little more questions about weight and fuel tanks and fuel capacity and all these kind of things, he'll go in a lot more detail into those items, so he can address those tomorrow for you. But so that's the products of the future. Again, we're going from more efficient, higher, faster, farther, more efficient today's family to exactly the same. We're improving on our already existing and very capable family of airplanes. Right now is a great time to be at the Boeing Company. I think you guys all know we're probably at record backlogs for the Boeing Company with 5,740 airplanes. It's a great place to be to start our second century. And it provides us the capability and the comfort to actually continue to invest in new products and new innovations for the next century, just like we have in the past century. We're really comfortable in this situation, and it gives us an awful lot of capability and strength to continue to build in the future. And people say, well, that's an awful lot of backlog, so what are you going to do in the future? Well, it is a lot of backlog. It's a record backlog, and in fact, throughout the industries, there's record backlogs by all of the competitors today. But when you add up all of that backlog, including ours and our competitors, it really only amounts to about 40% of the addressable market over the next 20 years. So even though we've got 6 years plus of backlog, there's a lot of opportunity going forward. 60% of the market over the next 20 years is yet to be addressed. It's yet to be satisfied, and it provides great opportunities for us going forward. And that includes every size capability across the board, and it matches very closely with obviously what Randy's forecast is in terms of single aisles, medium-sized wide bodies, small wide bodies, and very large aircraft. And then lastly, I just wanted to join to say we're really excited to be here at the Farnborough Air Show. We've got a great product lineup here at the show. We've got the 747-8F freighter here from Airbridge Cargo. That airplane will be on display for people to see. And we've got actually 2 flying displays at the air show. We've got the ANA 787-9 that will be flying in the show every day. And we have the 737 MAX 8 flying in the show every day. And we couldn't be happier to have that airplane here to be able to have you see it and see it fly every day in the show. So with that, I guess we can open it up to a few questions.
We've got about 10 minutes for questions, and I'll try to pass the mic over to you. Tim?
Hi, Tim Heath from Reuters. Thank you very much for those presentations. 2 questions, one for each of you. John, you used to say that Airbus talks about their competition when speaking in public, but you spent a lot of time today talking about them. Is this the new, tougher Boeing? Does it reflect the fact that you're now number 2 in single aisle on the next generation of single aisle? And are you in sort of market share mode? Is that what we take from that?
No, actually, I don't know that it's changed all that much. I can tell you personally, I get a little tired about the question of market share on the single aisle. And let me give you a good example about it, because we have 3,243 airplanes that we've sold. Actually, with the announcement this morning, a little louder?
Just a little louder.
Okay. And with the announcement this morning, Jamin, that's 30 more commitments to the MAX 200 actually. So now we're up to over 3,250 airplanes sold, and that's a record backlog for an airplane that hasn't even delivered yet. And for the Boeing company, and we're really comfortable with our backlog. And when you look at it, you say, okay, Airbus has sold more airplanes. But can you name the 2 largest LCC customers for the 737 or for the 737 MAX family of airplanes? Can you name them? Southwest and Ryanair. Southwest and Ryanair together operate over 1,100 airplanes today. That's 1,100 airplanes. They have 300 MAXs on order. So I've got a lot of room. Can you name the 2 largest operators or customers for the A320neo family?
Indigo.
Indigo
AirAsia.
and AirAsia. Do you know how many airplanes they have on order? 730. How many airplanes do they operate today? About 250? Who has more upside? Who has a solider backlog? Who's going to have a longer streak? I'm really comfortable with our position on the 737 MAX.
Thank you. And just quickly, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I can tell, the biggest change from last year to this year is the increase in demand for small twins. Would you say that that is the area where you are going to be spending most of your strategic attention in the next year or so?
Well, so the question is, if I heard it right, am I on?
Yeah.
So the biggest area of change in the wide bodies has been in the small twin area. If you think about how we size our airplanes, we put it in the forecast. Not only is the 787-8, 9, and 767 in that category, we also have the A330 and A350 900. Frankly, as you'll see tomorrow, we had a big change up in that small, medium category of freighters. So some of this increases in the freighter side. 767 freighters continue to be successful. And it's just the fact that that's where most of the product offerings are, and that's where we expect to see most of the growth. Okay?
Hi, Steve Trumbull with Lake Global. At 737 MAX 7, can you talk about now that Southwest and WestJet, we're obviously all for it, but how does this open up the opportunity in the sales department? Do you now look at going after the A320 with the MAX 7 at this capacity, or is it pushed against the CS300? How does this change the market outlook? There's not many sales in that variant.
Yeah, I don't know that it dramatically changes the situation. Again, we're trying to respond to our customers and offer the most competitive products in the marketplace that fit the markets that they're looking for. And clearly with Southwest and WestJet and others looking for a more capable and a slightly larger airplane, we listen to our customers and responded to that. It's not so much responding to the competitors that are out there, it's much more trying to satisfy our customers' needs. And obviously, if our customers are interested in an airplane also smaller than the 737 MAX 7, I mean, we'll listen to that too. we'll have that discussion. But clearly, you could see from Randy's forecast, our resources right now are focused on airplanes larger than the 737 MAX. And we've got a lot on our plate going forward. We've got a lot of development programs that we're working on, and that's going to occupy us for the foreseeable future right now.
Yeah, and I would add the MAX 7 in this configuration actually complements the MAX 8 a little bit better in terms of its sizing. You know, the MAX 8 was a 2-seat row stretch over what used to be our 737-400s, and now both of these airplanes have moved up in gauge. So the sizing complements each other pretty well, and frankly, it brackets our competition quite well, and I like that part.
Good morning, Sebastian Steinke from Futroview. I have a question, given with all this backlog and all this market growth, is this a time to maybe sort of lay back and focus on production, technology and optimization and go a little away from innovating new airplanes as the demand is so strong and looks so creating its own demand over the next tens of years? And I would like to ask the question, when do you see the big generation change? If we look ahead 20 years, there will be the 737 follow-on airplane delivered and the T20 follow-on airplane delivered. When will this era change take place? Thank you.
Well, first and foremost, we're extremely focused on efficiency in our production system as well as meeting our customer commitments. And, we are working extremely hard on the development of the MAX program. It is on schedule. It's actually a little ahead of schedule. The airplane's here flying today to demonstrate to the world that we are very focused on meeting our commitments on delivering on the 737 MAX. And we have every expectation to do that. So make no mistake about it, we are committed to this development program, and we're going to do our best to ensure that we don't have the kind of setbacks that we've had on the last two development programs that we entered into.
I was just going to say deliveries are critical, and they are the most important thing that we're focused on today. You know, we find ourselves in a position where for this first 6 months of the year, we delivered more than half of the single-aisle aircraft. We delivered 70% of the wide-body aircraft. We're in a good position. We've been in a good position the last few years. Deliveries are at the core of what we do, and they're at the core of our success. So we are absolutely focused on these deliveries. And in terms of product development, I guess I just look at it this way. You know, our focus is to be nimble, is being responsive to our customers, and bring solutions to them that bring value to them and value to us. And so we're constantly going in a whole new market, trying to figure out what we need to do in order to address the wants and needs of our customers.